nos afecta mucho por la economía, que va subiendo mucho. No podemos hacer nada, el gas, la comida, todo está subiendo y nosotros no podemos trabajar más para ganar más.
So she's saying the new overtime rule has prevented them from working more hours since no grower really wants to pay overtime whenever they can't. We suspect they'll only be able to do it in certain situations, but she said the checks, the take-home pay has pretty much been the same because every time there's been an increase in minimum wage, there's been a reduction in hours. And she's saying our paycheck has basically been stagnant the past 4 or 5 years, but our costs have gone up so much over those past 4 or 5 years. She's saying $600, what we used to make 5 years ago, was nowhere near the same $600 we make now. And the costs associated with food, gas, childcare, none of those have gone down or stayed the same. They've all gone the other way.
Siento que tanto los patrones que aceptaron que esta compañía trabajara aquí como la fundación es como si nos tuvieran en cuenta, como si supieran que nosotros tenemos muchas necesidades y que sin el apoyo de una fundación como esta, pues tal vez no pudiéramos salir adelante. Yo sé y estoy consciente por toda la experiencia que he tenido en este caso es que el camino es demasiado largo.
I think that the number one thing that differentiates the California Farmworker Foundation from other farmworker organizations in the state or at a national level is that we truly believe in hearing from farmworkers themselves and us giving them the tools on how we can better their lives, but it all comes down to listening. And everything that we do is data oriented. We collect data for everything to know exactly what the farmworker needs are, but then how can we help that farmworker by giving them the tools so that they can better their quality of life based on the needs that we see on a day-to-day basis. Last year alone, we served over 330,000 farmworkers in the state of California.
Production funding for American Grown, My Job Depends on Ag, provided by James G. Parker Insurance Associates, insuring and protecting agribusiness for over 40 years. By Gar Bennett, the Central Valley's growing experts. More yield, less water, proven results. We help growers feed the world. By Brandt Professional Agriculture, proudly discovering, manufacturing, and supplying the ag inputs that support the heroes who work hard to feed a hungry world every day. By Unwired Broadband, today's internet for rural Central California, keeping Valley agriculture connected since 2003. By Hodges Electric, proudly serving the Central Valley since 1979. By Pickett Solar, helping farmers and ranchers save money by becoming energy independent. By Harrison Co., providing family farms with the insights they need to make the best possible strategic, M&A, and financial decisions. And by Valley Air Conditioning and Repair, family owned for over 50 years, proudly featuring Coleman products, dedicated to supporting agriculture and the families that grow food for a nation.
Hey Cuco, ¿cómo anda la cosa?
Bien.
Te pongas nervioso con la cámara. No. Oye, les dijeron a estos vales de lo de la música, ¿va?
Sí.
Deben diles que tratan de no estar echando cigarro cuando están cargando. Órale, Cuco, gracias.
Luego te hablo.
Órale. I'm born and raised in Irapuato, Guanajuato, Mexico. I just have like 5 years living here, like full time in the United States. I used to be like in and out the first 3 years. I was working on ag just during grape harvest. I studied over there in Mexico, the university. As soon as I finished the university over there, I studied international business. I came here to the United States and I started working as a field worker, just checking toilets, checking the water jugs, if there is ice on it, cones, checking if there is no like garbage or things like that. Now I'm the director of Agforce. We are a Fresno-based farm labor contractor. We are providing labor services for table grapes, citrus, pistachio, and almonds. That's my position. I'm in charge of that FLC. Since I started working in ag, I tried to dignify the farm worker role. Every single time I have a chance, I told them that to be proud about what they are doing, because that's crucial for our nation's economy.
Hi, I'm Ahmed Mike Alamari, and I'm the president of Pacific Farm Management here out of Madera, California. So I'm from Yemen. My family's from Yemen. My dad migrated here in the 70s. He worked in the fields alongside my uncle, his brother. And then they lived in the Bay Area for a little bit, owned some convenience stores, and then came here to the Valley. And we own a local supermarket here in town. I worked there as a kid. That's where I picked up the language, and that's how I kind of got into the industry. Basically was out of the store dealing with the farm workers that would come there. We're one of the larger FLCs in the state. We have about 2,000 employees that we keep on pretty much year round, or pretty close to that number. We are approaching about $100 million in revenue now, so we are one of the larger employers here in the county and in the Valley. We work with small growers, large growers, medium-sized growers, institutional investors, insurance companies, kind of anyone that does any type of farming here in the Valley. We service clients as far south as Arizona, into the desert, Bakersfield, and then we go as far north as Yuba City, and then we're also licensed in Oregon as well.
One of the things I always hear from doing this show from folks is that farm workers are slave labor that the farmer treats like crap and takes advantage of them. True or not true?
No, that's probably the biggest misconception that I believe anyone at ag can tell you, or any farm worker will tell you. The conditions out here have dramatically changed over the past 25 years, I would say, especially in the past 10 years. That change has been probably greater than what it was the prior 15 years. I mean, workers out here, there's the farmer here has confidence in the employees are going to do a good job. There's not even a supervisor on site, just a crew leader from our end. And they're working at their own pace. They're completing their job in a good amount of time, and the grower's happy with the cost that it's coming out to. They have their bathrooms, they have their shade facilities, they take all their rest breaks, they take their meal breaks. They come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, they leave 3:30 in the afternoon. So even their hours is, their scheduling is pretty standardized now. So a farm labor contractor, what we do is we provide the employees to the farmer. So you can imagine, like this farmer specifically, he only grows almonds and raisin grapes. He only needs labor for 2 small windows throughout the year. During harvest, which is in August into September, and then right now whenever we're pruning and tying the vines and the trees. So he only needs about 20 laborers per season for those 2 periods throughout the year. It's very difficult for him to go find 20 employees that will only come to his farm for those 2 small seasons and leave. To recruit that many employees for such a small time is very difficult for him. So we're the liaison that coordinates with the employees, and then we move them from farm to farm. As soon as they're done here, they're going to the pistachios or they're going to the almonds, and we'll try to keep the employees as busy as long as possible throughout the year so we have a stable workforce. And that's what's really made us strong, is we've been able to work with growers, different types of growers, from stone fruit growers to citrus growers to raisin grapes to almonds, pistachios, irrigation companies, packing houses, kind of to keep our same labor force working most of the year.
How long have you been, did you immigrate here or were you born here?
¿Viniste de México o naciste aquí?
No, aquí nací.
Oh, she's born here.
Pues la verdad, nomás es casi trabajar aquí, llegar a la casa, trabajar en la casa, cuidar a los niños y hacer lo que tenemos que hacer en la casa y otra vez a descansar para venir otra vez a trabajar.
Yeah, so she said that, she works, gets off work, goes home, takes care of the kids, takes care of the house, rest on the weekends, come back to work, and, so day in, day out.
What's your personal feeling and the feeling maybe of your coworkers that you can share about the change to the 40-hour work week by the state of California.
Pues en realidad nos afectó de las dos maneras porque no trabajamos el sábado, pues lo dedicamos a la casa, pero de todos modos nos afectó en el bolsillo porque las cosas ahorita están subiendo mucho. Ya no puedes ni comprar nada con $100.
Yeah, she said, yeah, we got Saturdays off. We don't work as much hours during the week. Yeah, we got $1 more an hour, but everything else just went up way more extravagant than what our wages went up by.
Yo creo que otro rollo sería. Pero nada más porque ella piensa o porque ella cree, la persona esta que nos iba a beneficiar, pues eso fue nada más su imaginación o los beneficiados. En este caso somos los afectados, los que teníamos que tener voz y voto para este cambio.
She's made a very good point that I like. She says when they made this law, they thought farm workers were going to be the beneficiaries. They ended up being the victims of it. So that's a very, very strong point she made, and I agree with her 100%.
Well, farm workers are the lifeblood of the entire agricultural industry. I mean, there wouldn't be food on the shelves of grocery stores or food in the pantries of people all across the United States if it wasn't for farm workers. My name is Michael Thurlow. I work for Mountain View Fruit Sales. We're a grower, packer, shipper of stone fruit and citrus. And I grew up in the family business. So people ask, when did you start working at Mountain View Fruit Sales? I said, probably since birth. I would say since birth. Not only are farm workers in California feeding California and most of the United States, but also internationally, a lot of our allies, a lot of countries who can't produce their own food, like Singapore, like Taiwan, like Hong Kong. All these countries, they're dependent on imports from their allies, which is the United States. The California Farm Worker Foundation is more than a foundation to me. It's a community, it's a team, it is a foundation, it's a nonprofit, it's so many things. But really it's a support group for farm workers, people that we need to be taking care of. How we got involved with CFF, Hernan gave a presentation to the California Fresh Food Association, more or less describing what the Farm Worker Foundation was about and what they're hoping to accomplish in the long term. And all of the growers and packers and shippers were blown away. And so we met with him. He drove all the way from Bakersfield, which was about an hour and a half away. And that's when there was no local representatives of or ambassadors in the area yet. And we still supported the Farm Worker Foundation when they were in the Delano Bakersfield area because we believed in their goal and we trusted that they had the right team to achieve their goals. And they proved that during the pandemic, and they proved that in so many of the other ways they've helped farm workers all up and down California now, as they've grown to I don't know how many thousands of members now. You need to keep check because every single time you check, it's 1,000 more members.
My name's Hernan Hernandez. I am a product of Delano, California. I grew up in a small town of 3,000 individuals called Rich Grove, California, about 7 miles east of Delano. Grew up to farm working parents. I myself was a farm worker, started working in the fields at the age of 9, and I was your typical Central Valley story in which all of our siblings would work in the fields in the evenings, in the summers, in the winters, you name it. We did it all, but the fields really taught us to value education. It taught us a hard work ethic, and it really taught us to be proud of where we came from and what our parents did on a day-to-day basis. So I went to Bakersfield College and then transferred over to Cal State University Bakersfield, where I got my bachelor's and master's. Upon graduation, I got my dream job, which was to become a campaign manager in Salinas. I had been heavily involved in local political races, and I was really passionate about changing policy through politics. After I finished my assignment, I decided that I wanted to come back to the Central Valley. I thought about my family, I thought about my friends, and I thought about the people that I worked with for so many years. And I wanted to make sure that I came back with a purpose, and not only to give back to them, but also to help impact their life. I started working with the public health department, And then upon working with the public health department, I received the opportunity to go start the Central Valley Farm Worker Foundation. Back then, it was a startup. We only had 3 staff. The Central Valley Farm Worker Foundation turned into the California Farm Worker Foundation. And today we are a nonprofit organization that has operations in Santa Maria, in Coachella, and throughout the Central Valley with over 30 staff on board. I think the number one thing that differentiates the California Farm Worker Foundation from other farm worker organizations in the state or at a national level is that we truly believe in hearing from farm workers themselves and us giving them the tools on how we can better their lives, but it all comes down to listening. And everything that we do is data oriented. We collect data for everything to know exactly what the farm worker needs are, but then how can we help that farm worker by giving them the tools so that they can better their quality of life based on the needs that we see on a day-to-day basis.
Hasta mañana, Julia. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Alma Rosa Moreno. Yo soy originaria de la Ciudad de México. Llegué a Estados Unidos a los 18 años. Llegué a trabajar aquí en la agricultura, en todo lo que es la cosecha de la uva. Estaba casada y llegué con una niña de 1 año de edad a Estados Unidos. Me moví a vivir a Sanger. Ahí he permanecido desde el 2012. Hasta la fecha. Yo empecé a tener unos problemas con el que fue mi esposo por 19 años y padre de mis 3 hijos desde que yo vivía en Fresno. Él era una persona que trabajaba en el campo y sabía mucho de todo este trabajo de la agricultura, pero desgraciadamente empezó a tener problemas con la adicción y el alcoholismo. Entonces cada vez la relación se hacía un poquito más difícil. Yo tenía como un poquito de esperanzas de que él cambiara y dejara esas adicciones. De mi familia, yo soy la única que está en este país. Cuando me decidí separar de él fue porque su adicción cada vez era más visible. Todos esos días estuve verdaderamente estresada, pero después empecé a pensar y dije, ya no quiero que mis hijos vayan a la casa, porque si él está allá adentro y me hace algo, yo al menos no quiero que ellos miren. Solamente quiero que si él ya decidió quitarme la vida, pues que lo haga, pero yo no quiero que mis hijos miren y que se queden con ese trauma de ver que él me haga algo. Entonces empecé a decirles a mis hijos que ya no quería que fueran a la casa, que yo iba a estar ahí sola. Creo que ya me había resignado porque ya eran muchos años de ataques y ya estaba como un poco cansada de que nadie me quería ayudar y de que mis hijos ya no tenían vida propia porque tenían que irse a dormir esos días conmigo. Tenían que estarme monitoreando por las cámaras y ya sentíamos como mucha presión. Entonces les dije que no, que ya no quería que fueran. Pero gracias a Dios mi hijo siguió yendo a la casa y ese día él se metió y empezó a atacar la casa y me estaba esperando, pero como yo le había hecho caso al policía y había hackeado mi teléfono, pues no me di cuenta cuando él me mandó un mensaje diciendo que él ya estaba allá adentro esperándome. Entonces cuando yo iba llegando a mi casa, la policía me llamó y me dijo que no podía llegar a mi casa porque él estaba ahí. Y mi hijo lo había encontrado. Entonces él había tenido un corte muy feo porque cuando empezó a destrozar la casa se cortó la mano y se lo llevaron al hospital para curarlo. Y ya pude entrar a mi casa y miré todo lo que él había hecho y de repente sentía como esa tranquilidad de decir, bueno, ahora sí ya lo agarraron, ahora sí ya lo van a meter a la cárcel, lo van a dejar por mucho tiempo. Pero no, el sábado lo dejaron libre porque no mandaron los papeles donde tenía los cargos de intentos de asesinato en mi contra y lo dejaron libre otra vez. Entonces fue cuando yo me comuniqué con mi supervisor, Iñaki, y le comenté que tal vez no iba a poder venir porque me había tenido que ir de huida de mi casa con mi hijo porque pues pensaba que él iba a regresar otra vez. Y fue cuando Iñaki me dijo que iba a tratar de comunicarse con el director general de CFF y yo dije, no, pues no me va a llamar porque es sábado y es tarde. Pero sí me llamó y me dijo que iba a hacer todo lo posible por ayudarme, que se iba a comunicar con líderes locales. Y a los pocos minutos recibí la llamada de unas líderes locales y me dijeron que desgraciadamente era sábado, que estaba cerrada la estación de policía y la corte y no podían hacer nada hasta el lunes. Pero la verdad es que como ya nadie me había ayudado, ya había perdido como esa esperanza de que otra vez alguien me ayudara. Pero el lunes a las 8 de la mañana o antes estaba recibiendo la llamada por primera vez del jefe de la policía de Sanger, de los alguaciles y del district attorney, que le llaman. Y cuando me di cuenta, mi casa estaba rodeada de policías y de detectives, lo que pues nunca había pasado. Y lo empezaron a buscar. Fue la primera vez que salió su fotografía en la televisión como fugitivo. Y pues yo le doy gracias a esta fundación y a Iñaki, que es un supervisor de la compañía para la que yo trabajo, porque pues gracias a ellos estoy contando esta historia.
Why is it that people from the city don't come out, and typically non-Hispanics? Why aren't there white people out here doing farm work? It's one of those things, like back in the old days, everybody did farm work.
Yeah.
And now you just see it as mostly Hispanics.
Yeah. I mean, my father, we're from Yemen. There was a lot of Yemen immigrants working in the fields back in the 50s, 60s, especially in Delano. There's very few now. Now we have the Hispanics, and they're the majority of the farm workers are from Mexico, El Salvador, Guatemala, and some from Central and South America. They're the ones willing to do the work. I mean, they're very, very hard workers. They love the work as well too. I think that's another misconception, is these guys really love their jobs as well. They like working outdoors. They're with their friends. They're alongside their friends in the row or, in the field. So I mean, for them, this is. They're socializing out here as well and getting the job done at the same time too. So it's not like they're bunkered down in an office, not talking to anybody. Usually they're with a friend. Sometimes it's the husband and the wife working. Sometimes it's the father and his children, nephews, and whatever the case, as long as they're over the age of 18.
There's a great deal of respect by you and our growers in this valley for the farm worker, isn't there?
Yeah, no, that's very true. I mean, the workers are always going to be needed, even though there's more machinery coming into play and more machines doing mechanized work. Number one, there's still going to be a need for this type of work with farm laborers on a mass scale, and then number two, you need someone to obviously operate those machines and those to do that labor as well. I mean, we've seen a huge uptick in the demand for almond harvest drivers and pistachio harvest drivers than ever before, and every year there's more ground coming in, and there's a need for more and more skilled labor for those positions. They're a little bit higher paid, usually $3 above minimum wage. They do get to work some overtime, but it's just for a small window, and oftentimes it's the same employees that work out on the crew during different seasons of the year that go work in those highly skilled positions for that short period of time.
The future for the United States is we have to have a conversation on where we want our food grown. Do we want it grown to the same standards of California, or do we want to grow it in third world countries that have a completely different form of working conditions, of environmental protections, you name it? That's a discussion that we're going to have, and we really think that legislation and policy is needed in order to protect the lives of the farm workers that live and reside in these communities, because if we don't protect them now, we've seen mass migrations, we've seen the Dust Bowl, we're probably going to see something similar in the next 5 to 10 years in areas that are completely getting decimated by the international trade. So I do think that this is a population that society needs to place more value in, that we need to recognize more for their efforts, because without farm workers, if they were to stop one day, if they were to just say like, we're not gonna work, it'll cause complete chaos in this country. But imagine what would happen if all of a sudden the nation faced a food shortage, the chaos that would encompass in this country. I mean, oil, we could work around it, right? Water, it's also a need, a necessity, but food and water go hand in hand. And if we lose both of them, then it'll encompass complete chaos in this country.
Production funding for American Grown, My Job Depends on Ag, provided by James G. Parker Insurance Associates, insuring and protecting agribusiness for over 40 years. By Gar Bennett, the Central Valley's growing experts. More yield, less water, proven results. We help growers feed the world. By Brandt Professional Agriculture, proudly discovering, manufacturing, and supplying the ag inputs that support the heroes who work hard to feed a hungry world every day. By Unwired Broadband, today's internet for rural Central California, keeping Valley agriculture connected since 2003. By Hodges Electric, proudly serving the Central Valley since 1979. By Pickett Solar, helping farmers and ranchers save money by becoming energy independent. By Harrison Co., providing family farms with the insights they need to make the best possible strategic, M&A, and financial decisions. And by Valley Air Conditioning and Repair, family owned for over 50 years, proudly featuring Coleman products, dedicated to supporting agriculture and the families that grow food for a nation.